Okay, I don't know your son's names.
Okay, so my oldest son's name is Donovan,
Okay, I was for a second I thought you said another Z. I was like, do you have all Z's?
and then my middle son's name or youngest son's name
Damn it.
is Xavier, and
Okay.
then there's Zaria. So it's the last two that kind of favor each other. Yeah, so basically, she picked the names of the boys, but since it was the girls, the last one, I was like, listen, this is on me. I'm doing it this time. This is mine, right? I actually had that name for years. I actually had that name Zaria, which means princess. I had that name around the time that she was pregnant with Xavier, because before we knew whether he was a boy or a girl, we're like, if he's a boy, we'll name him this. If he's a girl, then we'll name this. So it's like I saved that name all these years, and I was like, I never thought I'd get a chance to use it, but here we are.
Here you go. Well, I actually love that name. I like Z names. So Zachary, we didn't find out the sex. So Zaria was on my, we didn't find out the sex, but it's gonna sound crazy because I'm not this spooky kind of person, but I saw him in a dream, like when I was like 3 months pregnant. We were swimming together and I woke up, I told Aaron, and said, we're having a boy. I was like, I saw him. Like he has black hair. Like I literally saw this child.
Hey,
and I told him a boy the whole time. And literally when I had him, and he came out and they're like, it's a boy. Like, they's like, you didn't flinch. I was like, I knew I was having a boy. And he looked like I saw. And I know that sounds crazy, but real talk.
If I'm going to trust anybody, I'm going to trust. If I'm going to trust anybody, I'm going to trust the one carrying the child. I believe.
Yeah. I just knew I was having a boy. So yeah, it was Zach. So because I love Z's and I love that whole thing. So yeah, Zaria, I'm glad you named a baby that works for us.
Yeah, no, like, so at least for me, I've always been big on, I couldn't just come up with a name for the sake of a name. Like I needed, or at least any name that was picked, I needed it to have a meaning. So like Donovan, the name Donovan means strong warrior.
Yes.
Xavier means like splendid or pleasant, which he is.
Yeah.
and Zaria means princess. So it's like every name actually has like a meaning for me. I just can't, I guess maybe it's because I spend all my time writing. I just can't just have a name, just put a stamp down and just say, yeah, name him Timothy or something. I don't know.
I feel you. I feel you. No, names mean a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they carry with them.
Because I read all the time. I had read this. I always know like these random facts. I had read an article that said something like 30% or 40% of parents regret what they name their kids.
Yeah, they probably just think of whatever suits it at the moment. Just saying like, yeah, that works.
Right. And so I was like, what name do I think will not get on my nerves? So
it's also which is why, like when I was saying before with Xavier, is like we had both. I needed to, just me, I'm an over planner, I'm obsessive compulsive, and I needed to have these before we went anywhere. So it's like I couldn't, it would be too nerve-wracking for me to just be in the hospital and just like, all right, what's his name? Like, all right,
oh no, I can't do that. No, I'm with you on that. I'm kind of like with you on that. But I don't know. I'll stream in a second. Or should I stream now? I went off yesterday. I went live for a second yesterday. I was out. Let me just go ahead and go live. Hold on.
Yeah, so like I missed it. I got the notification that you went live, but then I was dealing with
you got a lot going on.
Yeah, little Miss Thing who was screaming her head off. So
Zaria said she doesn't feel like she's being fairly represented.
So it's like we needed to tend to her.
She is her little fingers.
Yeah, no, she's so tiny. She's getting bigger now, but she was born small. Because like I said earlier, like she was a few weeks early, but everything is progressing as it should. So we're good. We're good.
Well, it's interesting. So I sent you guys one other thing, and it was the way I was going to do a birth announcement. Because, we've been talking about Zaria, so I wanted to announce her. But as soon as I sent that thing, that was the same day like Wayfair came out from like trafficking kids and stuff. I was like, actually, never mind. But I have my kids.
I still don't know what to make of that story.
Like that. Huh?
I still don't know what to make of that story, but it's frightening.
It is pretty, there's something to it. I'll say that. And so I was like, I got to let people know. So I got you guys this little shirt, and it said, it's musical. It says something like the something beat something. You'll see. But I meant to take a picture and announce. That was going to be my baby announcement for us. But then my son, because we have to mail out everything else, he mailed it already. So There goes that. All right, let me just, we're about to be live. 1 second. What I find is we go live before I know it's live.
Yeah, no, I normally wait for the it gives me like a little indicator in the corner saying like now live on Facebook, and it's like, all right, we're good, we're good now.
Okay, we're probably live now.
There it is.
So yeah, okay, LC. Hi.
We're actually recording right now, sir.
Looking straight up like.
No, you good? Okay. All right. That's my middle child, y'all.
The middle child has to get the, you know, they have to do a little extra to make sure they're
That's
seeing.
that's my guy.
So are you the baby, oldest? Oh, hey, fam. Y'all, first of all, let's say hey to everybody else. It's our weekly live catch-up, guys. Hello, Facebook.
Hello. How you doing? We're here.
I'm doing.
But to answer your question, I am the only child from my mother, but the younger child from my dad. My older brother is 10 years older.
Okay.
So,
you know, I love how with families these days, we can't just say yeah, because, you know, we always got, it's complicated.
It's complicated, and especially when, like, you know, I'm not gonna lie, when my dad was young and popping, you know, he was out here doing the most, but you know.
Listen, Papa was a Rolling Stone, wasn't a hit because of the beats. Like we all could relate. People could relate to that song.
No, it's funny because I found a picture the other day because like actually my both of my parents were born outside the country, and my older brother was born outside the country too. So around the time that I was 4. My older brother came to live with us for a little bit. He was 14 at the time. So it's like I found a picture of like the 3 of us back then. So I'm like 4, he's 14. And then I'm looking at my dad, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, we look at, you know, we always looked at our parents as like these adults that were just like this unattainable age. And then I looked at the picture and realized he's like the same age I am right now. Yeah. But then it puts a lot of things in perspective where it's just like, listen, man, like we might be hard on people sometimes, and you realize that they just regular people who make mistakes like the rest of us. And like
that, you know, I tell people, I said, when your parents lose that cape, you know, you think your parents are like perfect and old and wise, and you get mad at them for things that they do, and then you realize like, well, yeah, he was just a 25-year-old guy, or you know what I mean? Right. And it's like you all of a sudden get it, and they become human, you know.
Because at least like, because when you talk about becoming a parent, because for me, being a parent, I realized that like I don't know what I thought beforehand. I thought that there's some magical transformation or something like that, but then I realized no, I feel the exact same. I just have people to make sure don't die. You know, so it's like then it puts things into perspective. It's like no, they're just regular people trying to figure all this shit out.
Right. No, I say to my sons, because I apologize. One thing I do that I don't think my parents did to me is that I apologize to them when I mess up. And I always say to my sons, I said, look, when I got pregnant with you, like the universe, God didn't come down and say, oh, she's about to be a parent. Let me get her right. Right. Let me just make her this perfect thing. I was like, they just take these flawed beings and say, you know, here you go. And I was like,
so, do better with this one. Do better with this one.
So I was like, this is what you got. And I said, what I will always promise you is you're getting the very best of me. I ain't saying it's great though, but it's the very best I got. I will never try hard at anything as I've tried to raise you, but I mean, I'm still this flawed person who is continuously working on herself.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, like I look at a lot of things different. It puts both of my parents in perspective. And it's like, I realized like I was less hard on them the older I got. And I was like, you know what? I get it. Yeah. You know, I tell people both my parents are deceased, and I tell people one of the biggest regrets is I can't say, I get it now. All right. Okay. Oh, all right. I see why okay.
But yeah, because you do, you do, because you're hard on them. You think, and because the rest of the world is presenting their fake picture of what families look like. So you think certain families are perfect and your parents are the wrong ones getting it wrong because you're inside, not realizing that everybody is living these slightly dysfunctional existences. Like all of us have our own, whatever, take on dysfunctionality. So
well, it's funny you say that because Trish and I were having this conversation. It's like, this is in no way like a shot at like Jay-Z and Beyonce because those are like two of my favorite musicians. But you'll see people talk about, couple goals. I'm like, you do realize they've made more than one album kind of disparaging each other about shit that they've done wrong in the past. Like, no, there's no such thing as like goals. Like the only goal is you might go through some things with your significant other and then you either choose that you want to work it out or choose that you don't want to work it out. But like, there's no, this fictional idea that people are like perfect or celebrities are perfect. Like, prime example, there was a J. Cole line on, I think his, what's the name of that album? Forest Hills Drive album, where he says, I want that Will and Jada love. Fast forward to 2020, and then you think to yourself, they're like, oh, hey, maybe you don't want that Will and Jada love.
Well, but even back then, though, we knew Will and Jada love. Well, I always thought it was an open thing, that they had an open thing, right? That they love differently. But I will say, I tell people, if two people are together 5 years or more, and that's being really like generous with this, people, you gonna have gone through some things, right? And so I'm always fascinated, like with the Will and Jada thing, the judgment of some of the people. I'm like, these have got to be people who do not have never been in a long-term relationship. Like, because if you are, or just, some people judge other people, although they, these glass house people, and I'm not saying they've been through infidelity, but you've been through something like,
right.
Financial, whatever, or, you've been through something, outside family members treating you wrong. There's been something that you've had to overcome. And so the judgment that people have is very interesting. Some, the difference is some people choose to stay and some people choose to leave, and only the people in the relationship can decide that.
But other than that, I feel like a lot of times, people, especially people on social media, they love talking about hypothetically what they do. It's like, I would never. And I'm just like, no, you're probably doing something similar with somebody who's not even of the caliber of the people you're
right. Like when that thing came out with Kevin Hart and his wife, and he cheated, and all these women were talking about, I'd leave. And I'm like, as you sit in your studio apartment with that no good brother who comes through every other week, and don't get me wrong, some people, they really would leave. But I'm like, she's living in mansions, driving big cars, and she seems to really love him, was pregnant with his child. I'm like, come on.
Right.
Come on. And we've all been a fool for love, right? We've all done some things that maybe we've all stayed longer than maybe we should have. Maybe.
Absolutely. And at least and sometimes for me, I've been in a situation where I didn't realize till kind of after the fact. I was like, I wasn't even very healthy. I'm glad I'm glad I'm not in that anymore.
All the things that you can't, the time you can't get back, like, what the hell was I doing? Like,
but because sometimes you're in the middle, you just can't see it. You can't.
When you're in it, you can't see it. Well, let me ask you this question: are you the friend who tells people like what they can't see? Are you the friend who allows the person like just to be in their dysfunction, whatever it is?
So I'm actually my entire group of friends is like this. We're all the friends who will advise you against something stupid, but will give you the freedom to be stupid. But if it goes wrong the way that we think it's going to go wrong, you might get one venting session, but then after that, it's like, bro, we told you. Like, I remember there was one time I was dealing with like a young lady who, let's just say, it didn't go too well. Before I started dealing with her, all of my friends were like, bro, don't do that. Don't, right? I didn't listen. So when it went haywire, I didn't even bother complaining to them. I just basically just like called them up, sent them a text saying like, y'all were right. I'm gonna just move on now. You guys were right.
well, because I'm that friend who is going to tell you. And it has made, I am worse than anybody else, like of my friends. And so it has got me in trouble well, I'll say this, 99% of people, I'm not going to tell you. It really is. If you like it, I love it. But if you my people, like my people, I'm be like, yo, nah, that ain't going to work.
Right. And there's even been, situations, even with like, family members where I really don't approve of this person. But listen, if you're this adamant about it, like I'm not going to be the one to just, drop salt every single time I see y'all. Like, so it's like, listen, if you want to chug on along, listen, I'll be there for you if it goes haywire. But just remember, between you and me, I done told you.
I told you. You know what? See, I'm a Sagittarius. I believe in astrology. And Sagittarius, our whole thing is about truth, right? I believe, so if I love you, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to say that is terrible. That's garbage. She's garbage. He's garbage, whatever it is. And it's funny because yesterday I had another like crazy ass day. People think that when I speak the truth, at least my truth as I see it about discrimination, about racism, about sexism, about any of these things, they think, oh my gosh, you have hate. And I'm like, I love you to death. I so love this world and trying to fix stuff. I'm telling y'all the truth. And people would rather you lie to them and say, oh yeah, all we have to do is snap our fingers and we're all going to get along. I think the loving thing to do is say, this mess is jacked up. Like, our country is racist as hell. It was built on white supremacy. It was built on a patriarchal philosophy, and we got to fix it. Because how do you fix it if you don't know? So yesterday, I don't know if you saw, I posted this video of this brother trying to deliver food in a building you had to be buzzed up.
Oh, was that the was it Postmates? Was it?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know where he was from delivering.
Yeah.
A white woman who walked up to him and she's going off, right?
Why are you wearing that mask? What are you hiding? I'm just like, in case you forgot, there's an illness.
Right? And she wouldn't let him in the building, right? And I post these things because I like discussion. So of course, that video was shared 9,000 times. I had to take it down because it just got so insane. Because I can't monitor the whole time. At one point, I had like, I want to say 6,000 comments. And when they get real crazy, you know who gets in trouble, right? So I was like, I just got to take this thing down. But in my inbox the whole time, I'm getting from white people, you are dividing America. It's people like you that's the problem. And I'm always like, so it's not the racism that's the problem, but it's me showing the racism. And while I'm showing it, I'm posing the question, what would be the best way to handle this situation? Because typically people just want to respond saying, slap that woman, right? She should have been slapped. Slap that bitch. That's what I always get. And I'm like, that sounds good. That's easy for us to say. But brother man would have gone to jail had he even looked at her funny. And he knew that. And we realistically know that. And people are like, we got to stop being such punks. Okay, he's going to slap her. He's going to jail, like for a long time. Let's 100%. Just be real. So, and I'm sick of brothers going to jail. And I'm not saying that it's fair or right, but we got to figure out how to fight back intelligently and strategically to hurt and fix these situations. I'm like, no, he needs to record it like he did. He needs to tell the office manager, get the woman evicted, from the place, whatever. Like, there needs to be steps taken, but not just slap her. Because that just brings like 10 minutes of satisfaction.
It's funny that you say like you get things in your inbox, because it's people don't want to feel uncomfortable. Like, all right, so it's more so one of those things where people don't want to approach the idea that they might have some implicit bias. It's almost like you just want a pat on the back. It's like, hey, you don't say bad things. You don't look at people crazy. It's just like, you're nice. Just a pat on the back. But it's like, no, there's active things that need to be done to combat inherent prejudice. And the idea that you can divide America based on somebody else's actions is preposterous. Like, because they don't want to look at that person and say, you know what, that could have actually been me. probably, calling. Because, like, listen.
That's why they react so much, because they know it could have been them, because there's a black man at your door, and what everything says in America is that white people are scared of black people. And that's what we need to deal with, but nobody would admit that.
Because it's like, you talk about implicit bias. I remember this distinctly. I think it was, I want to say maybe I was like 17, something like that. But it was like at that time, like all right, so fast forward the first maybe 6 or 7 years out of college, I worked for Citigroup, right? So back in college, I was working internships for Citigroup, which is what eventually led to my, full-time position. I distinctly remember I had just interviewed for my first internship with Citigroup. I'm wearing a full-on suit. I got my little, starter kit briefcase, with all my copies of my resumes and whatnot. And I get on the elevator. I literally just left the interview. I get on the elevator with my little briefcase and my suit. First thing this woman does is clutch her purse. And I'm just like, yes, we are in this office building. There's cameras everywhere. I'm wearing a suit with a briefcase. But my first thought is, let me take this woman's money. What's wrong? Like, what's wrong with you?
But that's what I'm saying. That is what's so interesting to me, is how people are so scared of having that conversation, which is what I do, is force people to have conversations, because they have to recognize that somewhere in them, and a lot of them, the ones who react that violently, and, I'm like, because you see yourself and that scares you. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't even be tripping. You'd say, wow, that woman's really racist.
Right, that was fucked up. Let's not do that.
Right. And the other thing that bothered me about the whole thing was, and let me say this, Black people, we need to check ourselves, because we've been living in America, right? And so I constantly have to check my biases, and the ones that white America, the majority culture, has taught me about me and my people and about other people. We all have these ideas. And so what was interesting to me is how Black and white people immediately were like, oh, she's just wacky. She has mental illness, one, and she's drunk, right? And I'm like,
but there's videos like this every day.
Right. I'm like, then that means I have met a lot of crazy people in my life, because I'm telling you, every Black person I know has had a racist incident where someone is questioning their presence, even if they do it in a nice way. Like, I have been out at least 25 times. I had been in the room at work or at fancy like dinners or living in a certain neighborhood, where they find a way to ask, like, basically, how in the hell are you here? So, where are you moving from? And all these questions that are really, the bottom line is, what the hell are you doing here? I did not expect you here. And I really am not comfortable with you being here. And I need you to show me your credentials to show me that you're here. And it might be nice as hell. It's seemingly innocuous, but you go through this whole dance, right? And so, yeah, I was shocked that they gave this woman immediately this pass for acting like, we see white people, majority cultures, especially white women, saying that they're scared, act all the time. Like, I'm like, no.
They get the, even, I hate to make such a drastic comment. But you even see it with like, white male, like murderers or something like that. They get the benefit of being crazy.
Oh, always crazy.
If we did it, we're just thugs and criminals and just bad apples and et cetera, et cetera.
This is what I was saying. I said, if a Black man had walked up to her and was like, well, yo, what you doing coming to my building? I said, y'all would have been like, he's violent. What's wrong with him? These thugs, we need him off the street. I was like, it never would have been considered if he were drunk. And another thing that pissed me off.
Because Rayshard Brooks was drunk. And they killed him. And they killed him. Yeah.
Listen, in my life, and I've been drunk countless times. I'm 49 years old, be 50 this year. Been drunk a lot of times. I hate to admit this, but I've been drunk. It's National Tequila Day, speaking of that. So later on this evening, I may be a little tipsy. I have never once,
as you should,
I have never once accosted a person based on their race. I've never said a racial slur. I've never suddenly become racist. And so my thing is, even if were drunk, she's racist. You know, if she's crazy, I mean, if she has a mental illness, she's also a racist. Like, mental illnesses, autism, depression, anxiety disorders, it's not racism. It is not racism. Don't give people the excuse. You cannot take a pill and be like, oh, like this person, like it takes all the responsibility off of people of being bigots and just says, oh, they have an issue. Like, no, they're racist. Maybe drunk too, but racist.
Yeah, I've never. Like, it's funny you bring that up because like I can't remember the amount of times like I've seen like apologies from people saying like, oh, I was just, I was a little bit drunk, or like, I was upset about something. I was like, let me tell you something. Like as you said, in your life, you've been drunk a lot of times. So it's like, listen, I've also been drunk a lot of times, like a lot of times, right? I have never been drunk and said to myself, let me get these racial slurs off. Like, literally never happened. It's literally never happened. Like, it might, the most it'll do is, make me try some dance move that I probably don't have the capability of completing, and then and then making a fool of myself. But I've never turned into a racist, like, just because some brown liquor hit my system. That's not how this works. Like,
yeah, so stop with that excuse. And it reminded me of like when my kid was in school, right? And my son got called nigger and stuff like this, and people say, well, they're just children. I'm like, what kills me is that every time you hear about kids calling other kids racial slurs, it's always Black kids being called nigger, and we're supposed to say, oh, well, children, that's just kids being kids. I was like, you never hear of kids of color, of Black children saying, oh, he called little so-and-so cracker today or whatever. Like, I don't even say that word. It just sounds so crazy. Like, because they're not hearing it at home. That's one thing. They're not hearing it at home. Because we don't just, this is one thing I've realized, and this is not meant to be an insult. I think that Black people think about other races when we're together, not at all. And I think other races are always thinking of us, right? So we don't get together and say, man, we're not talking about people and using racial slurs and being hyped. Like, we're just kind of like together in our Blackness, right? I don't think, like, we're just together. We really don't spend time, as weird as that may sound. Like, my kids have never heard me just like saying racial slurs and
just having a powwow about white people. That's not happening.
We don't do that. We don't, and it's not meant to be as an insult, but I've never heard, and when they were saying, like, using giving this white woman these excuses, I was like, and not only me, I'm saying I went to an HBCU. I grew up on Hampton University's campus. I've been around Black people all my life. I've been Black since I was born. I've never heard like in any of the groups where there's like a whole lot of no energy is put towards talking. We're just kind of like doing our thing. I think that's so, and so when your kids are saying these things or all this racist stuff is happening, that's because that's in your brain. Black people are renting space in people's brains, which is somewhat a compliment, but quite annoying. So when, even if she were drunk, what is it called? A drunk mind speaks a sober tongue or something like that. Like, that had to be there for it to come out when you're drunk.
Right. I mean, listen, all the drunk mind should do is maybe tell somebody you like them. And when you didn't have the courage to before, that's it. That's it.
And stop. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this country. One, not calling out racism. One, and because how do we fix it if we don't name it? And two, providing people with excuses all the time.
I'm glad you said that. I forgot when this happened, but some couple years back, Trevor Noah. They asked Trevor Noah, I think it's like right around the time that he took over the Daily Show. They asked him, since he's from South Africa, they asked him, like, what do you see as a difference between, South Africa and America, two places who have had, very visible, racial issues. And he said the difference is South Africa actually admits its past.
Every other country.
Which is why it's able to, move forward a little bit better from apartheid. Because they actually admit, he's like, hey guys, this was fucked up. Let's not do that anymore. Like, The same way now too. Like you look at Germany.
Germany, right?
Germany completely disavows. It doesn't take away the fact that it's like a bunch of you are descendants of some fucked up people, but
right.
They at least accept responsibility and say, yeah, we were bugging. Okay, so
that was wrong.
Let's not do that no more. You know what I mean? Like, but whereas you come here. And prime example, Steve King, who just got kicked out of he just got kicked out of Congress. Shout out to you guys for getting rid of him. But he's had like a long history, like where he talks about white nationalism and just like why are we so scared to admit that white people are great? Because if we don't, then it's the downfall of Western civilization. It's like, listen, no one is saying that you guys don't have accomplishments, but the idea that you built America by yourself is nonsensical. Like, that's honestly nonsensical. Like, pick a racial group. Just pick one, and they helped contribute to. You got the Asian people,
racial group.
Of course, black people slaves, cool. You got the Asian people in the railroads, cool. Like, listen, pick a racial group, and it's been used to build America up. So, which is why, like, a lot of times when you'll hear people say, like, if you hate it here so much, why don't you just go back to your country? It's like, okay, cool, all right. Let's vibe with that for a second, because people hate like Hispanic immigrants so much. But then you go talk to a farmer in California, and it's like, hey, our crops are dying because we don't have enough people to work the fields because we use a lot of immigrant labor. Sorry, guys. So it's like, no, you're living under a fallacy.
Oh, it's such a fallacy, and that's the thing of just. I mean, and that's all I do. I tell people, I was like, I'm about handling the truth. It was another video went out. I was too afraid to even post it. With some people, accosting a black couple, and at the end of the video, the white guy does the Hitler sign, what do you call that? The thing.
Yeah.
And some Germans were writing about it on the page I was on, and they were saying, in our country, if you do that sign, that is an automatic. I think it was like 8 months in jail. Like, no, we're not even trying. We're not even having a conversation. So what I'm saying is they recognize how painful that symbol is in their country. And I'm like, in America, we're like, but why can't we have the statues up of people who pillaged and raped and owned slaves? That's our history. And I'm like, they would never in other countries have statues up of people who were so cruel, and it doesn't even matter if you, like, there was some good things about him. You're like, yeah, but he did do this, but he was a murderer. So
no, it's funny because I literally had this thought the other day where, even though I mentioned something similar on a past video where I was talking about, like, I don't understand the love of the Confederacy because they lost. It's the same thing too with, like, you see people with, like, because you're talking about Germany, so it's like when you see people pulling out the swastika, I was like, you guys know they lost too, right? Like, I don't understand this obsession with people who lost. They lost. Like, so it's like, how do you go about, like, once again, maybe this is just me being way too logical for my own good, but then how can you propose superiority by idolizing multiple sources of losers? Like, they all lost. Like, not only did Hitler lose, he knew it was coming, so he killed himself. This is your hero? Like, this is your hero? Like, I don't get it.
It's funny because even like right now, when people ask me, when they talk about like being angry or something, I'm like, I'm probably less angry than I've ever been. And I'm not really angry, because there's this calmness, and I don't know, like I've said this before, where these changes are going to happen. The numbers, reason why people are acting as crazy as they are, if I can give anybody any hope, like, those statues are not going to exist 10 years from now, right? And so, because it is what it is, that you've lost, right? Things have lost. Number of people, just honestly, in the numbers of people that are coming, that are in this country, the number of brown people. And so people have got to get about accepting and loving and being able to work with all people, or they're going to be left behind and they're going to be sitting up there, you know, like the people who still honoring Hitler and the people who lost, because the world is changing, right? And I don't know how fast or slow it's going to happen, but it's gonna happen. So honestly, the advice I want to give to people always is like, you better get on this bus or not, because we leave it. It's not going to be the same America where other people do not have a voice, right? You know, it's just not going to be.
No, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that too, because I just have a random assortment of clips in my head. But I remember a couple of years ago, Tucker Carlson said something along the lines of, you know, like you take like the average white family in like suburbia or something like that, and like, you know, they see people coming into their neighborhoods, and it's like they might not necessarily be bad people, but things are just changing a lot quicker than they're able to, you know, handle. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, that's a you problem. That ain't an us problem. That's your problem. Like, so you don't have a real beef other than this is happening too fast. So yeah, don't do that. It's like, no, that's not how this works. I mean, listen, you can go by, you know, population trends and see that, like you said, like in a couple of decades, man, the majority of America is just going to be a bunch of colored folk.
I mean, it really is technically
some shade of hue is coming. Sorry,
well, millennials already. I mean, it's over, which is, I honestly think the outrage. I think first of all, even the nicest people who are like, oh yeah, we want people to have equal rights, but you know, that was kind of, it sounded good in theory, but then when there was a black president and black AG, and you know, black people just seem to get
too much.
It was like, wait a minute, slow down, and people were experiencing black people in their jobs, like, you know, it became too much, I do think, and it is, because I gotta keep telling people the thing of equality. The reason why it is so difficult is because you got to give up something too. It's not gonna just be, oh, I have a cake. I'm fine with someone else eating the cake. That means like, no, but you got to give up some of your cake, and people not, you know, when they feel like they own, you know, everything. So it is more than a notion, but it's going to happen. So I'm like, y'all better, that's what people, I'm like, y'all better hire me. Y'all better get right. You know, grandma used to say, you better get right with yourself, because it's going to happen.
But also remember, and it's like, I mean, of course, like you're right, it's going to happen. But remember that people are going to come kicking and screaming, because like we can't even get people to put on masks without rioting. So,
but this is what I mean.
If putting on a mask is a violation of your rights, then I got some news for you.
The only reason Trump is viable, the reason why he got elected, and the reason why people are fighting for him, he doesn't stand for any moral or principle. It is us against them. It is the protection of whiteness, the control of whiteness. People, you know, and we got to be honest about that. What makes me mad is that he owns it. Like I actually like people where I know where they stand. I feel comfortable, because it's the nice ones who bother me. He's very clear. The white nationalists say that's our guy. Like, you know, they're like, that's our dude. He speaks our language.
David Duke was inspired to run for office because Trump won.
Right.
For those who don't know, David Duke literally runs the KKK.
Yes.
Like literally, not even figuratively, no, literally runs the KKK, and was inspired to run for office because Trump won. Like, all right, not to bring up or not to denounce Bernie Sanders at all, because it's like I actually fuck with a lot of things he says, but when you see Bernie bros online bugging out on a bunch of other candidates, they basically told Bernie Sanders, you have to accept responsibility that people are doing things on your behalf. So then why are you telling Bernie to do that, but then you can't tell Trump? It's like, hey, you never think it's odd that literal identified white supremacists fuck with you? Like you never thought about that at all? Like now, if a bunch of like, I don't know, you know, drunk drivers came out and said like, man, LC's my man, I'd have to think to myself, why are all these drunk drivers fucking with me? Like, I don't like, you know, like, like you gotta put these pieces together. Like,
very true, very true. No, so I don't know. It was something you texted me. You're like, we got to talk about so and so, and I can't remember.
Kanye.
Oh, speaking of Trump and
Kanye.
mental illness, and
I believe a lot of things at once about Kanye.
I do too.
One, I do believe this is all part of an album rollout.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I do believe he's legitimately out of his fucking mind.
Mm-hmm.
Three, I wrote about this a long time ago where it's not even, for me, it's not even the fact that he says things that I disagree with that makes me upset. It's the fact that he legitimately doesn't like know shit. Like it's like when he speaks on topics, it's very clear that you do not have an understanding of the topic you're speaking about. Like we could talk about somebody like Candace Owens. Candace Owens firmly understands what she's talking about.
He's wrong as hell.
I disagree with every fucking thing that comes out of her mouth.
Everything.
But she understands what she's talking about. So it's just like, you know what? People like you, okay. Kanye just legitimately doesn't know what he's talking about.
No.
And he has such a visible platform. Now, mind you, before I continue, I talk all the time about me being a musician, et cetera, et cetera. He's literally my favorite artist.
Oh, he's brilliant.
So
he's brilliant.
Everything that I say, it pains me because like I grew up with him as literally my favorite artist. So it's like to see, but then again, I also wrote about this too a long time ago where I said we need to stop depending on celebrities and public figures for our information and our hot takes because a lot of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about either.
Right, they're musicians. They're good at what they do.
So when you see him at a presidential rally, talking about Harriet Tubman, and he's saying like Harriet Tubman didn't really free slaves. She just brought them to go work for other white people. My immediate question is, show me where the black-owned businesses were in slave times. And then maybe, maybe we could have gotten these freed slaves some jobs.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Come on, that's a minor detail. Come on now.
What in actuality are you talking about? And it's like, but the thing is though, and this is something that, you know, black people, not all of us, but some of us, we need to own. There's a lot of people I see on social media who will be in the comment section trying to explain what he meant to say. No, I don't give a fuck what you think he meant. I'm going verbatim by the words that came out of the man's mouth. The man...
Well, I've had people come on my site and go off when people talk about Kanye. And what's interesting is that you could love a person, adore a person. Kanye could be my child. And I would say he is suffering from mental illness. He definitely has some identity issues, right? He's brilliant. But you got to, again, it goes back to our original conversation of there's got to be some truth, right? There's got to be some... Like love doesn't mean blind. It shouldn't mean blind. Love should actually be where you see things clearly and says, I love you anyway. We're going to love him anyway. Like I preach.
And love you enough to call you out on your dumb shit.
Like Dave Chappelle gives that kind of love where he's like, man, you are bugging. I'm going to fly to Montana and check on you. You my dog. But publicly, I'm like, this dude is bugging. That's my dude though. Right? And he calls it like it is.
But that's the thing. It's just like, you know, he's attained the status that he has because of his works, and you know, because of like the money he's been able to generate. I mean, it's like the platform that he's on right now is like I don't need somebody who just so clearly doesn't know what he's talking about.
Doesn't know what he's talking about.
And I've been one of those people though too. That I mean, of course, it's the mental illness thing. It's we can all agree that he's never been right since his mom died.
Never been right since his mom died.
He's never been right. And then, because like, I remember even, I forgot what he was on. I don't know if it was, I don't know what talk show he was on. It might have been like either Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon. But then when he first started talking about when he ingratiated himself with the Kardashians, and he basically said, he's like, I was just looking for a family.
He was actually on the show because I saw that clip.
Right, and it's like people don't like, you got to pay attention when people say things like that. He's like, he's blatantly telling you, like, I need help, I need comfort, so the last thing you need to do is then give him a microphone, a misunderstanding of a bunch of facts, and just let him loose. Like, like, no.
but that's the thing, is that, like, when people say about the whole Kim Kardashian thing or whatever, in my opinion, the one thing I will say is the last thing he needed the last few years, in my opinion, was the media and the pressure that comes with that. And what you got to do at times like that is, like, we got to lock down. So I'm going to leave the show, or I'm going to leave you, one or the other, because I don't think you can have that lifestyle and be under mental duress, which he clearly is, right? And someone has to love you enough to say, yeah, time out. We can't do both, because, you know, they are watched 24/7. They get so much thrown at them because they've chosen this life. And, you know, I think that when you're in love with somebody and you're protective and you say, okay, I got to take a time out from this business, so my husband, we could just take a time out. Because, you know, it's not like he's been producing all that, you know, or he could have produced, he could have done his clothing line and not be as visible as that name puts on them. And as a side note, what you said about the family thing, I had never seen the Kardashians until I was flying internationally, and that was on. It was looped, and it was when Lamar Odom was in the family. And but before he married
Chloe,
middle girl Chloe, and they said, well, with us, you have a family. And he was like, this is another brother, never had a family, was desperate for a family, said he wanted a family. And it was this family dinner. And literally the mom, and they was like, they sold it. Like, with us, you have a big family, we'll be your family. So, you know, Lamar's hanging out with the brother 24/7. Like, he, you know, they gave him that unit that he so desperately needed, you know?
Right. And it's, you know, but then now, you look at it too, but I also feel like, and of course some people might completely disagree with me, but
they should disagree with us. We're comfortable with that.
I think people put too much of this sometimes on Kim, in the sense that,
yeah, I agree.
In the sense that, all right, what do you you also have to realize that a person that if you on the outside think this guy is bugging, you have to remember she's married to him and has kids with him. So it's like, as a married person, if I'm out here tripping, I'm pretty sure my wife's going to be having a hard time. You know what I'm saying?
When they see each other, I don't think they spend a whole lot of time together. There's no way
I wouldn't want to spend time with that dude. I wouldn't want to spend time with that dude at all.
No, don't get me wrong. I have empathy for her as well. I'm just saying, I think that's what people are seeing. Because I think I would shut it down. And I know she did, you know, I know she did shut it down. Something she just shut down recently. Oh, like, she's not allowing them to film his mental breakdown, which I'm like, thank you for that. I mean, that should be pretty.
They didn't do that to Lamar. Speaking of Lamar, they
did not do that to Lamar. Oh, they did not do that to Lamar. Okay, so Yee. So what? I mean, what? So what? I just wish he would just chill for a minute. He needs to go wherever Chappelle went and chill. Like, Chappelle needs to get him a ticket there and let the brother just get himself together. Because he's you know, I really do love the brother, you know, from afar. Like, you know, I have my brother love for him. I want him to be better.
Speaking of Kim again, she wrote, you know, like a statement where she said, it's like, you can't help somebody. Like, if they're an adult, you can't help somebody if they don't want help. That
is true.
So that's the part that's tough, because you're saying you wish he would sit down, and the problem is only he can shut it down, and he won't.
Only he can.
And he won't.
That's true.
And it's just like, it just keeps getting amplified and amplified and amplified. But then it's like we're in a time just in general where you have a certain faction of people who understand that, like, all right, this guy's going through some shit. Then you have a certain faction of people who just want to make jokes. Then there's a certain faction of people who just, like, you know, just want to say disparaging things, and it's just like, listen. Sometimes you gotta ignore motherfuckers, man. These things are able to go as far as they do because we give them attention, we give them a voice. And I'm a culprit right now. I'm talking about it right now, so I'm part of the fucking problem.
Oh no, I know I'm gonna talk about it, and I do. But I think I feel sorry for him, but right now where he's spiraling, I don't think it has anything to do with right now the attention. I think he is deep in his spiral right now. I don't even think he's seen other people clearly.
But then you'll hear other people who say it's like, oh, like who are close to him say like, oh yeah, no, he's fine. I'm just like, well, this is fine.
Yeah, you know, we don't know, but I will say what I do know is that the brother ain't totally stable right now, and I do wish him the absolute best. Like I'm hoping he gets himself together.
Just in general, stop talking about black people who've done more than you. Just please. Just stop.
There's gonna be a lot of people for me. What we gonna talk about then, LC?
No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about him. Like don't bring up Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
Don't bring up slaves. Listen. People who've endured more than you, leave them alone. Just.
Oh, you know what? Actually, there's just a list of people you can't mess with. Like there's a list of songs that nobody should remake. You know those songs like you can't. No, don't do that. There's just a list of people. Harriet Tubman being one.
Who wakes up and says shit about Harriet Tubman? I don't like. How does that thought even enter your head?
That's what I'm saying. That's when you know you're just, you know. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate Harriet Tubman, but she's not first of mind most days.
Right. And then that's not at the top of my brain. And then my next thought is, you know what? Fuck Harriet Tubman. That's never been a thing ever.
Especially it's like, bruh, we only got a few heroes they'd have allowed us to have and celebrate life. Can you just leave them alone? Like, come on, give us our few, please. I don't know, but we hope he does okay. So the world is so freaking crazy. I don't even really know what else to even say because it's funny. Like even on my page, it's like I swing between we got to ensure we're hitting the important things. I do want to talk about coronavirus and how it's affecting Black people, Black and brown communities worse. I do want to talk about the presidential election some. I do want to talk about the civil war we're in. But at the same time, I do like just want to focus on some dumb stuff because it's like you need a break. Like I said, it's National Tequila Day, everybody. That's my dumb tip for the day.
Speaking of
which is my favorite spirit.
Speaking of coronavirus, hey, listen, what's up, buddy? What's up? All right, no, it's like speaking of coronavirus, all my people in Atlanta, please go back in the house. I don't know what you guys are doing. What are you doing? I got a lot of friends in Atlanta, and they'll show me videos of like people partying, doing all types of stuff, and I'm just like, what? Like, this is not a mask in sight. This is not a distance between people in sight. Like, it's like, what are you doing? Are you actively trying to kill yourself? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Listen. The longer you guys prolong this distancing thing, the longer it's gonna take for us to get back to any sense of normalcy. Like because
right now it's looking like forever, ever away before we get out because of people bugging.
You will live without the club for a little bit. You'll live. You'll be fine. You will be fine. Like I don't know, like here, I don't know what they're doing over by you, but here in New York, they're so desperate to get people back in restaurants that they're basically like building new outside seating.
Yeah, that's what we have on the streets.
And it's just like, I forgot. Like I was listening to this podcast, the Joe Budden podcast, where one of the co-hosts, Maul, was like, "I'm not trying to eat my food and have bus exhaust hit me in the face at the same time." And it's just like that's what we're doing. It's like people are so eager to just be outside, and I get it. But it's like, guys, like this.
But let me
that badly.
Let me go deep with you for a second on that, because I've really been wondering like why that is, like what it is. I think that this is what I mean. You know, I'm onto my spirituality. I believe that this is a grand awakening, right? We are in our faces. We're seeing, you know, racism in the world. We're seeing the corruption in the world. We are being faced with some things that we may not have wanted to look. I feel like the world is like, no, you have to look at this. You have no choice. We've been faced with how dirty people are. Like, wash your damn hands. Shouldn't be that damn hard, right? Basic stuff like that. I don't believe people are comfortable with themselves. Like their whole lives are kind of like the illusion of being out, drinking certain drinks, being with certain people, wearing certain outfits. And so this time alone or with another person is real. You are having to confront all you, like who you are, who the people are in your lives. And I think that's very uncomfortable for people, and they need the accoutrements. Now, don't get me wrong, much as I travel and love to travel, I was never running from anything. Like I was a whole person who enjoys the actual travel, right? But I think some people are constantly running from something. And so this time alone, I think has been like, some people they really are not mentally good with themselves or straight with people they live with to be able to do it.
I promise you that club ain't gonna help you though. Like I promise you.
But no, I've been so curious as to why people like certain, like I've seen like, you know, clubs full with people twerking, no mask. I've had to say like, well, what is that makes you just totally not care? Like we got to go deep with it, in my opinion. I've been trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's a good part of it. I also think the other part of it is people just don't like being told no or being told they can't do something, which is why people are freaking out about having to wear masks. Because it's like, listen, it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. Is this mask really hurting you? Like, it's not hurting you. It's not really violating your rights or anything like that. They're basically just telling you, like, hey, keep your germs off of other people. Like, that's it. That's all it is.
Right now.
That's
the thing. People always say to me, so they keep asking, well, you know, we keep guessing. I'm sure you're doing that in your home. When do y'all think this is going to end? And I'm not a big political person, but I'm like, well, it depends. If Trump wins 4 more years, then this is going to go on forever because it's a stand for him. Like, you know, he's not, you know, we wouldn't have been here today. I said, I need somebody to declare a national emergency, shut this thing down for a month, and then I think we'd be good. But, you know, it's just been kind of like, everybody do what they want to do. Like, if you feel like wearing a mask, wear one. If you don't.
Or he could have just kept the pandemic response team that Obama put in place. But no, he fired them. So.
Well, because it had Obama on it.
America, yeah. Who fired the pandemic response team? But all right,
But a black man put it together. But that's a whole nother subject. Well, I know you. Thank you again for like taking the time to roll with a sister.
Yeah, you see, like my son was he's trying to get me off. So
no, that's what Xavier. I understand, baby. My kids, the basketball started again.
Absolutely.
So before my kids, I was getting a little time. I was enjoying them. Basketball came on. It's like, yeah. It's been real. It's been real. So the 76ers were playing when I was last out there.
Yeah, no, it's over now. It's
over, right? No more love. So yeah, anytime you want to talk, just call me.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good weekend. I'll see you next Friday.
Absolutely.
I'll see y'all next Friday on Facebook.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
Yeah.